Hey everyone, my name is Robin Wata.
And it's your girl Velonika Pome'e, and you're watching the Xtra Sznd Podcast.
Hell yeah, V. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast.
Hey, I'm excited
I
too.
manifested this shit. I freaking wrote it down. I was like, I'm going to have V on the podcast. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know how it's going to happen.
I love it.
But
I love that we're here. Congratulations. Like, this is so crazy.
No,
you said you were going to do this and you launched it. You did. I was like, wow, he dropped it and already season 2.
Yeah. I'm like working on the second season already. And I'm just so excited to have you here. I think that a lot of people in our community look up to you. And I've known you for a couple years. I think we met like during COVID, during the pandemic.
Yeah, during Fashion Week.
Yeah, I went out to New York Fashion Week with George and Penny, and we met up with you and Jazz, and that was the first time we met. I think I like randomly hit you up and was like, hi.
You were telling me about your magazine.
Yeah, I was like, I was running Pacificus at the time, and I was like, hi, I run a magazine. I want to meet you. Is that okay? And when you said yes, I was like, oh, hell yeah, V's going to meet with us. But that was the first time we connected was during COVID at New York Fashion Week, and we've been close ever since. I feel like every time I go to New York, I'm always hitting you up.
Yep.
You're always getting people together, introducing me to new people.
Yes.
But I want people to know a little bit more about you. So tell us a little bit more about where you're from, your cultural background. For those of you guys who don't, I mean, they should know.
Yeah.
But I'm curious.
Sure. I'm originally from the IE, Inland Empire in Southern California. It's about an hour and 20 minutes outside of LA. And I grew up in Paris, California. My dad is Tongan and my mom is Tongan, Samoan, and Fijian. Growing up, I always knew this, but talking about it, I would just say I'm Tongan. And it wasn't until, just raising more awareness on the Pacific that I was like, I need to start telling people more. So a lot of people don't know that I do have parts of Samoan and Fijian in me.
Well, I know it's crazy. I did like a DNA test and I found out I'm like 24% Samoan. And I was like, wow, that's high.
I think that we all have roots within each other because of like the king sending his 2 sons. One son went to Fiji and started there, and then another son went to Samoa. So you have the Lau Islands in Fiji that's originated by Tongans, but they're Tongan Fijians. And like, that's where my ancestral bloodline comes from.
Yeah, it's crazy like learning a little bit more about my cultural roots. Like I have, again, some like Maori, Hawaiian, different things like that. But my whole life, I've always claimed Tongan.
Yeah.
Shit, I still claim Tongan. But no, that's so cool that you have kind of been like embracing that. And I've definitely been working on that as well. And like going from California to New York, that's where you live now in Brooklyn. What took you out there and how long have you been there?
Yes. So that's kind of like part of my modeling journey. Is in 2015, I entered a model search contest on Instagram, and I ended up getting selected out of 73,000 applicants. And the prize was a modeling contract and a national campaign. So I ended up winning, and my agency was in New York. And like for the first maybe like year, when I started modeling as freelancing, like for real, taking it serious, I was in LA, and like a lot of people don't even know. Also, while I was doing this, I was stow-eyeing on the side. That's how I was making my money. That was like my little side hustle. Yeah, I bartend in New York now, but I was stow-eyeing when I was in LA, and I would go to like all the castings and network during the day, and that night I was like working. And LA was just really slow. I feel like there was a lot of opportunities, but my first time going to New York for Full Figured Fashion Week, I'm not signed at this point. And I was just like, oh shit, this is the real deal. If I really want to take this like for real, I have to be in New York.
Yeah. So
I entered the model search, won, then the following year, like the model search happened and I found out in November. I moved to New York in April.
Dang.
The next year.
Dang,
yeah.
That was pretty quick.
Yeah. And I kind of just like hit the ground running, like trying to be anywhere and everywhere. Like that fast city life was like so thrilling and intriguing to me. And I was so hungry, you know, so that's what took me out to New York. Because I was just like, if I want to do it for real, I got to be out there.
And so with modeling, did you always see that as a career path? I mean, like, obviously you were kind of freelancing, you entered that competition, but did you think that it was going to take you to where you are today?
No, because I started out as a community organizer. And before I like started to take myself serious as a model, like I can really do this, I was doing a lot of like community advocacy, charity fashion shows. We were picking up trash in the city. I was finding volunteers from my old high school to come and like do property makeovers for like homeless veterans and like battered women with children. Yeah, like that's how I really started. And I would just be doing these charity fashion shows for fun. And I was walking in the show and there was a designer there that actually, I just shout out to Renee, Purple Diva Design. She was just in New York City. She seen me walking and asked me to walk for her in LA Fashion Week. And when I did that and I was able to do it, I was like, oh shit, I can really do this for her.
You're like, oh, I'm on a runway. I can make this happen.
Yeah. And at the time, like my community organization that I founded was called Change in Love. And I wanted to like help young people rediscover their passions, like their talent. And if like, especially at-risk teens, because at the time I was an at-risk teen and I was getting in a whole bunch of trouble. Like my parents
like what? I'm just kidding.
We don't want to know that. I'm definitely like the girl with the past. You know, like don't look up my name. But my parents definitely
keep
like
the Google
sent me away.
To modeling.
Yes, just find me on that stuff, like on that side. But like my parents definitely sent me away, and I had like an epiphany that I wanted to help young people find themselves and like, you know, like that they didn't have to let their mistakes define them or like condemn them as a person. And I wanted to come back and help like just young people. So I started putting events together that helped us kind of like figure out what we wanted to do. If you was like me, you were in school, you didn't have a job, but you were out of high school in that weird like area of trying to figure out what you want to do. If you're going to go to college, career. And I feel like I was in the line of fire, so I wanted to figure it out. But when I was trying to figure it out with them, it wasn't cool. Like no one didn't want to do that stuff. Even like there was like a lot of downplay about the community advocacy because there's no money in doing community work, you know? So then I pivoted to the modeling because at that time we were doing the charity fashion shows and I'm getting these opportunities. People was not believing in me. And I'm like, you know what? Like maybe let me just apply myself to this and show how I can embody my own movement and like be my own like hero of my story.
Yeah. Well, something that I think is so dope is that you said that you became a community organizer to help at-risk teens, but I still feel like with you using your modeling platform, you still do that. And it's not like you had to pick between one or the other. You like found a way to pave this road to combine both of those passions that you have. Like since day one of me even just coming across your Instagram page, like you've always been very outspoken about just the Pacific Islander movement within creative spaces, plus size positivity, like body positivity. You've been really big on that. I feel like you've been a huge mentor to everybody who meets you. I mean, I've helped you with like random different shows. Like you've come out here to walk in fashion shows here in Utah. And I feel like everybody who meets you, they always like come away and they're just like, I just met like Velonika Pome'e and she was so nice to me. And she like gave me some tips about this and this and this. And so I just think it's cool that in the middle of you kind of finding your passion, you were able to identify that you were multi-passionate and bring it all into one thing. And I think that's so dope.
I appreciate that because I feel like when I started doing modeling full time, I felt like it was taking me away from the community stuff. And like for a long time, I was kind of like struggling with that and trying to find like my identity and who I am and like my career and like the things that are important to me. And I'm having a full circle moment where I'm like, I can do all of those things, you know, like I don't have to choose one. I don't have to pick one. I can be the full embodiment of what I believe in and just like my day to day. It's not about what I do, you know, because I thought that like I needed to be more active. I need to be more in like spaces, creating things for people to come together. But sometimes it's like I had to also use that energy to pour into myself because of what I do takes a lot already. And I don't realize it at the time that just by doing that, it still serves its purpose.
Yeah.
So I've definitely had to like find balance in that. And like it's challenging because I think like those are some of the moments that a lot of people don't see behind the scenes is like, although I'm becoming someone that you look up to, is like in the midst of that, I'm even just like trying to remind myself that I can be my own person that I look up to.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I love that. And I think like, again, when people see like others with a platform, like they don't see everything that goes behind the scenes. Like they don't know how many no's you've gotten when you've auditioned or tried out or gone to model calls or whatever it may be. And so again, a lot of people are just seeing these photos that are being posted, like your Target campaign, that was freaking dope. When you were in Sports Illustrated, that was friggin' dope.
Yeah.
So many dope things that you've done. But I know that it's made you like extremely resilient. And that is something that I always applaud you for because you've never let any no, I don't know, like you never take it personally. I've always just seen you hustle and I've just never seen you stop. And that's just something that I admire and I know that other people do. So just know we are very aware that you're doing the damn thing and you've been doing it for a long time now. And so I'm just so excited to have you here to kind of talk a little bit more about your story. And so kind of just going back into modeling in the beginning of your career, I'm curious, like what has been like the most challenging thing about being a model in New York City?
I think the most challenging thing is just having a strong sense of self. Because a lot of people come to New York City to find themselves, especially like as a creative or like as an outcast. Maybe you just felt like you never belonged in like your city or you didn't feel understood by your family. So you're trying to go and like figure yourself out in New York City. But there's so many outside influences and you can get easily swayed and lost in the sauce. So if you don't have like a kind of like a solid foundation or like structure in like who you are, that's going to be the most challenging
like
thing.
New York's going to eat you up.
Totally. Because as a model in New York City, you're trying to do anything and everything to get the opportunity. So if you're willing to do anything and everything, that just tells you like, and you're in the concrete jungle, there's going to be a lot that you're going to have to like face and like come and be at crossroads with, which I don't necessarily condemn as a bad thing. I think it's still good because I totally like found myself going out there. Like I didn't really start dating till I got to New York City. And it was just because like finally I felt like I had the freedom and I have so many eyes on me or like, and not only that, just growing up with like very straight Tongan culture, like the girls can't even do anything. You know, it's like we're sneaking out.
No, I've talked about that on the podcast.
So now that you have the freedoms, like you don't even know how to act. Like, you know.
You're like, wait, I can do whatever I want.
Trust. I was like so rebellious, like my first time I left home for college. So going to New York City, I kind of like already had a few of the leaving home under my belt.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like just like super, super wilding out, but I definitely think that like as a model, as a creative, you're moving out to New York City. The most challenging thing is to be rooted in who you are. And like, and obviously you're going to be tested. That is what you definitely will not escape being in New York City is it's going to test you. And really it's like character building for sure.
Yeah. Something else I'm curious about is like, I know we've talked about this a lot, but body positivity and like size inclusivity on runways. This has always been a topic of discussion because I think when you really popped up on people's radar, especially within our community, was when you got that Sports Illustrated spread. And I think so many people were just so shocked to see a girl who looked like them, you know? And I remember like telling my sisters about it and they were like, oh my gosh, who is this person? And I was like, I don't know who this is, but we need to follow her. So, like, I just loved that you were showing your curves on full display on that Sports Illustrated spread. And obviously, like within our Pasifika community, like we got curves for days.
Yeah.
Like our women be curving, they be swerving, they be doing all the damn
swirling, all the Erlings.
I think it's like been so cool to see that you've been able to not just show people that, hey, like even as a curvy girl, like you can make it as a model. And I'm just curious, like what has New York kind of showed you about like body inclusivity and with size inclusivity on runways? Is there like, do you feel like a lot has changed since you first started modeling and that they've been improving a ton? What does that look like?
I feel like since I started modeling, and mind you, when I started modeling, plus size events weren't even a part of Fashion Week. We weren't even a part of the conversation. And I feel like very privileged to come up in that time because there wasn't a lot, it was like anything and everything that had to do with plus size. As a plus size model, those were the opportunities I was seeking out. They weren't on the mainstream. Like, you know, they weren't like these mainstream brands. Like there were indie designers, there were up and coming designers. These were like fat girls turned designers because they're just tired of not having clothes for
like
them.
Shopping at Torrid.
Yeah. And so it was kind of like it was a new thing for me. And honestly, when I came into plus size modeling, that wasn't my goal. My goal was like to like love myself and to prove to myself that like I can do something, and like these things don't have to be like a limitation for me. And I was like going through like a spiritual journey at the time when I first started, because I just started feeling like I just had this aha moment of what my life work was gonna be. And I was like, oh, so a part of this came with me having to like fully like accept myself. Like I was coming out of like a really deep, dark place in the relationship, and I was just like trying to figure out myself, you know, as a young girl. And so it was more so me trying to prove to myself that like I can do this, and like I'm not gonna let anything stop me. Because even though I might have this, it was like, you know, a little bit of insecurity or something about my body, but I was like, I have the height, I have the look, I have the skills, like,
period.
You know, and I was like feeling myself, and I was like, I can actually do this. And then I did it. And then the plus size movement was growing with it. But I was going through like an internal thing. Mind you, I'm coming from a space where I'm trying to inspire young people. Yeah. It was young people with the past, but now it was like, dude, the young fat girl in me also never would have thought that I could do this. Yeah. You know, so it was like literally, I still feel like truly now, like my life is a love letter to my younger self, because these are things that like I would have never fathomed or thought about my life. And I just wanted to prove to myself that I could do this, and I'm worthy. And then everybody was like starting to catch on, like, oh shit, like she's for real about this. It's like, yeah, it wasn't just like my sex appeal, like trying to show off my body. It's just like I fucking worked hard. Yeah. To like have this confidence. And I was in the gym and I busted my ass to work on the things that I didn't like about myself. And I'm here, and you damn right. Maybe it's not perfect. That's how I felt doing Sports Illustrated. Like maybe it's not perfect, but I'm here in the same room. So that means these people are no better than me. And I got here just like this, like.
Exactly. I'm sitting here like, shit, you did the damn thing. I feel like, again, like the hustle just doesn't stop with you. And I think something that I've learned from you is just like seeking the opportunities out there, and like being so grateful for the opportunities that are being opened for you is something that you've always expressed whenever we're together. And I just love that so much. And so with like the plus size movement that grew and helped you grow your career, I'm curious, like, do you think that your career would be different if you weren't a plus size girl? Or do you feel like that was something that really helped you build your platform?
You know what? I don't think it would be the same if I was smaller. I feel like because of the adversity of like being Tongan, being plus size, being too tall, being too big, all those different things, it kind of like just helped mold me more into like what my belief systems are, like what I stand for, my principles. Even to what you were saying in the last question, do I still see it expanding? I feel like I try not to even pay attention to it, because this is such a personal journey for me. This is not for like
you're working on yourself and all of these things are
it just so happened that the plus size movement came about when I was trying to figure myself out. I was already a big girl. you know? So it's just like, oh shit, this is all the stuff I dealt with. Cool. You know?
You're like, book me.
Yeah, because I even like, you know, it was just like the story. It just felt like the time was so right that this was something that I should, you know, continue to do. But I definitely don't feel like, I feel like the things that make me stand out the most in the room are the things that I was the most ashamed of growing up.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, especially you're Tongan, you're trying to be more westernized. Like, you ain't trying to really act Tongan outside. But I started realizing that me being Tongan in the space, like just my cultural values makes me stand out. People don't even know what to do with that. And then on top of you throw everything else, like my size, like my height, and it's like, this is normal.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm the shortest of my siblings. Like, and they're like, what the hell? So it's just like all these things that I hated about myself and that I didn't really like embrace. Now it's like, those are the things that actually make me so fucking cool. And like, I'm kind of like tired of the world trying to make me feel like I wasn't, or like I wasn't deserving, or I wasn't worthy. And it's like, no, I am. I've always been.
No, I freaking love that, because I feel, again, like you said, the things that made you different are the things that made you stand out. And I'm just curious, like, has our cultural background, like being Tongan or Pacific Islander, like helped you in any way, like with jobs or getting cast in anything? What does that look like?
I totally do feel that way. You know, there's a lot of like pros and cons to our cultural background, a lot of like things that come with it. But the things that I have been able to take with me into like my business ethics and how I interact with people has definitely been because of the cultural background. And it's definitely been why I feel like it's just like one of the biggest castings I freaking crashed. It was for Chromat, and the casting director was from the Bay, and she knew Tongans. She was aware of Polynesians, of Islanders. So my introduction is like, I'm Velonika Pome'e, I'm Tongan, I'm from California, I'm you know, I'm doing my little spiel. And she's like, oh, like, I grew up with Tongans in the Bay. And I was like, okay, you know, and I used that moment to connect with her.
Yeah.
But I felt so seen because in New York City, where people don't know like Tongans, and I'm at this
That's like
big,
anywhere though.
Yeah,
It's like
anywhere. And I'm at this big major casting for New York Fashion Week, and somebody acknowledges me and sees me. I wrote a note, a thank you card. People might think this is corny, but when I came up in the game, that's how we were taught to kind of like, just to make you look different, stand out on set. I wrote a thank you card to the casting director and the designer. And I told her like, just being here in New York City is already the dream. They ended up booking me for this show, and they booked me for the next 4 seasons. And I ended up opening for Chromat, one of like the biggest years. And so it's like, I feel like those things have kept like long lasting relationships for me, and where it's like they're not hiring me as just talent for the job, but they see me as like a person. They're like, yo, I fuck with her. Like, and so I feel like a lot of my jobs, or a lot of the connections I make now, it's like, yeah, they do acknowledge the talent, but me as a person, they're like, yeah.
Yeah, like you bring so much more to the plate than just your looks or different things like that. And again, like I think across the board, like so many people are still being introduced to Pacific Islanders. Like when I tell people I'm Tongan and they look at me all doe-eyed and they're like, what is that?
Yeah, same.
And I'm just
same,
like,
right?
Maui, Moana, something, like anything, you know, any of those people.
Not Maui.
I'm like, that's my uncle.
Truly.
Because I think most of the time people just think I'm a big ass Mexican.
No, same. They always think I'm like mixed. I'm like Black and Asian, or I'm like Puerto Rican. It's always mixed.
Yeah.
Totally.
And so I think like just hearing about that, like how our culture has helped you in that aspect is such a cool thing, because if anything about our Pasifika community is we work hella hard. And I feel like whatever we decide to focus on, we just thrive in those environments. But I think like within creative spaces, there's like a long time where creativity wasn't really celebrated in our community. Like it wasn't common to meet a Pacific Islander and be like, oh, you model? Oh, you're a graphic designer? Oh, you're a fashion designer? Like I felt like for the majority of my life, I didn't really get to see that. But I feel like within the past, like decade, maybe a little bit longer, we've really seen people step into those spaces and build us a damn table so that we can sit at. And I feel like you've done that with modeling. And it's just so cool to see, because obviously, like, I freelance as a stylist. I work with so many Pasifika models, and they always ask me about you. Like, whenever they see that I spent time with you in New York, or if we're together at an event, they're always just like, what is she like? Like, I follow her. And I'm just like, she's probably one of the realest people I've ever met. And I say that, and I'm not even like, I don't know, like, I'm not even trying to hype you up in that way. But you really are just so authentic, and just everything you say is so well thought out. And it's the Virgo in you, honestly.
It is the Virgo, yes.
But kind of just learning a little bit more about your modeling career, have there been like any other like huge projects that you've worked on that you're extremely proud of? And I'm curious to learn about like what brands or what shoots you worked on that have really stood out to you.
Yeah, I think probably my partnership with Athleta. It was a 6-month partnership, and I was able to like carry out a self-defense course for women. And I feel like at that time, because like it's cool when I get like these big campaigns and I get to be on set and work with these different companies, but it's even cooler like when they're hiring me as a model, and then I'm able to actually like implement something else that
like your other passions into it.
Yeah, you know, and now like they're paying me not just to be a model, but also just be me and like the things that I care about. And so the 6-month self-defense course for women was something that it was an idea that came to me when we were in COVID, and like all these other things had their, like Nike was the original sponsor. It was just supposed to be a totally different plan. And the way that came about and how it turned into something way bigger, and it ended up being like a big financial opportunity for me, was like, that's the alignment that you're doing the work, you know, that you actually want to do. And I think recently now it's like I've been putting the energy out into like the universe that I only want to work with people who genuinely want to work with me, and not just using me as like
at face value.
Yeah,
you're more than that.
Value, and especially like if you don't know what to do with me with your brand in that way. And I also want to work with the companies that truly reflect the community and the world that we live in. So like me coming back now when I'm on set and I know that this company is hiring me because they know that those are the things that I'm checking for, and they want me to like highlight that, and they want me to know that, hey, I see you and we support you, and like whatever it is that you like need our support in, like we're gonna like put our, you know, our weight behind you. And so I feel like right now what I'm most excited about is being a free agent. I'm recently out of my contracts, and all the work that you guys have been seeing me accomplish in the last like 1.5 to 2 years have been all through me.
Hell yeah.
Just off the strength of like my name, what I'm passionate about, what I talk about now. Now I feel like I'm not boxed into just my modeling work. Like I feel like now I can talk about real life shit, and I will still align myself with the opportunities that pay me to do exactly what I want to do and what I love doing. And so I feel like that's been showing up in different ways now. It's like more than just the modeling gigs. It's like the stages, it's the platforms, it's how I'm using my voice. I'm here in Creative Pacific, but it's Climate Week in New York City. And I got to shout out my best friend Jazz, because she's actually hosting a panel.
I love Jazz.
She's hosting a panel right now, and I just send her all the love. But I was supposed to be there, and Bree is in there. Like all of Pasifika is also there for Climate Week. So you see a lot of like where fashion intersects with activism, and that's my jam. That's my jam, is to show up, use my voice, put a look together, show you like who I really am outside of this shit, but also I put it on too, like, yeah. You know? And that's my jam. So yeah, I feel like those are the things that I'm most excited about, just me being in more alignment with like what I want to do and how I'm going to utilize my platform. You know, that doesn't mean that I don't want these big campaign jobs and these big modeling gigs. I just want to be more authentic with it.
Like more intentional.
Yeah. I feel like before when you guys seen me getting these jobs and I was in JCPenney's and Macy's, like I was just doing anything and everything. And like, you know, it was like, yeah, on to the next one. Let me post this. And I never freaking enjoyed it. I never actually sat in like those moments. And I feel like now it's like I have more clarity now. And now it's like I don't take any of these things for granted. And especially if I'm in a space where I'm being welcomed to and I'm being invited to because of like me.
Yeah. Well, something that I kind of want to know about is you talk about wanting to work with brands and designers that are genuinely interested in you and the things that you stand for. Have you ever felt in certain spaces that you were kind of just like the diversity hire? Like, what did that look like?
All the time. And like...
Which is funny because I mean, like, being a diversity hire as like a Polynesian, like, of course, there's tons of people of color out there. But when we're talking about Pacific Islanders in these spaces, like, we are minimal.
Yeah.
We're like even smaller of a demographic.
So to that, I feel like the upside of that is like, even though I'm tokenized, but if I can be the first person in that space to help other people see themselves and create another opportunity for them to come up and do it, I feel like in that way it is good. Like totally, let me be that person. As long as like I'm not becoming that person that it can only be me.
Yeah.
Like, you know, as long as like I'm not blocking the opportunities for other.
They're like, hey, we have our Polynesian girl.
Polynesian models, like, you know, and I feel like that's another part why like I embrace all the girls who are coming up in the game, because it's like, dude, when it's hard, you know, it's not easy. So when you do see that one pasifika person in that room, understand what it took for them to be in the room to even be considered. A lot of times when I would get opportunities, I would just be so thankful that they even wanted to see me for the casting.
Yeah.
Fuck the job.
You're like, thanks for even letting me in the room.
Because it was just like, if you don't have the experience of those things, you don't know how it feels. So that's why it's like that idea is like, I'm just proud to be here. Once you're over that, I'm just proud to be here is like, okay, what else can I do? You know? And so I've had a lot of those moments where I was the only girl and I was proud to be here. And now I can be in a position. It's like, what like more can I do? Yeah. What more can I do? I don't have to be just the one person here. And I don't have to be just the one person in front of the camera. There's so many other ways that I can be a part of the work.
I love that.
Yeah.
Something I want to know more about is just a little bit more about the culture, kind of mixing or having like the intersection of culture and fashion in your career. And within Tongan culture, I feel like we're very, very conservative about modesty, about like how we interact with people, PDA, holding hands, being affectionate, and like different things like that. And so with you kind of moving into this space, I'm curious if you've ever received any backlash from our community for being as courageous as you are to like post your photos in like Sports Illustrated and like doing a shoot like that. Did you ever get any flack from our community for just doing your job?
I totally did. I totally got a lot of flack in the beginning. And it was more like internal, like not internal, like inner circle. It was like from my family, like my cousins, you know, as this, and especially because I was stonewalling at the time. So like in my, like coming up in my career. So a lot of people already had like this like narrative of like, oh, she's this model, like, but she toas, like, you know? And
maybe we should explain what toa is.
So toaing is basically like, it's a social activity that pasifika men do in the States. And they usually have a toa who is like the girl who is mixing the kava and serving it in a coconut cup. And the men are just like chilling, hanging out, getting drunk. Not drunk like alcohol, but drunk because you're still coherent. Like you can still drive home, but just like mellow. And that's all you're doing for all night. And like if you're in older Tongan toa clubs, like the men can get really, really spicy and how they talk to you. They talk really dirty, very perverted and nasty. And I never did it with the younger guys. I did sometimes, but it was like, I already had a boundary up. Like y'all got to pay. Y'all can't talk to me a certain way. Like I'm only staying here for a certain hour.
Tax bracket.
I was like, but most of y'all couldn't even afford to have me come throw at y'all club. More Mimi asses. But like that's basically what thoa is. And it's frowned upon because they kind of like almost equate that to stripping, to like the American story of stripping, because they're usually like bad things that happen after the
like
clubs.
You're putting yourself in a space, like you said, where people aren't the most reverent.
Yes. There's definitely like a negative like stigma with it that comes with it, because there's other stuff to it. But shit, I was just there to make my money.
Yeah.
And I feel like I already had like this image of me thoa-ing, and this girl is modeling and she's showing pictures of her body on the internet and stuff. So I think that with the cultural, like taking the good parts of the culture and having that be like character building, I definitely had to also detach myself from certain things of the culture so that I can be this person that the culture looks up to.
Like that the culture needs.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask that because I feel like even with this podcast, I get a little sidetracked about what I should talk about or how I should talk about it. Cause I'm like, oh man, my mom's going to beat my ass when she watches this episode, Like,
no.
I get like nervous, and like, I know like even with my magazine, like I got a lot of clapback about people who had differing opinions about how I went about it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I feel like we need people who disrupt the culture in that aspect, because there are a lot of things that hold us down within our community as well.
Totally.
And if we forever we're going to live by these standards of modesty and like not being affectionate towards loved ones in public or whatever, I'm like, is that what we want for like future generations? I just don't know.
Yeah.
And I feel like because we grew up in that, it would be hard for a girl to be like, I can be a model, or like, I can take this job. I can do this and this and this. And so I think like, again, when I first saw you in Sports Illustrated, that was kind of just like my personal stamp of approval, that I was like, I don't need to listen to anybody who ain't paying these fucking bills. Like, if you ain't paying this fucking bill, I really don't need your opinion.
No.
But I think like I go back and forth about it, because at the same time, like there's just like this internalized shame that I feel we feel within our culture.
Totally.
Because we want to make people proud. Like, we're doing this for the culture.
Yeah.
But not everybody's going to see it that way. And
totally.
so, I mean, like, even with this podcast in of itself, like, I feel like with multiple topics I've had or like have brought up, I'm like, oh my gosh, who's going to listen to this? What are they going to say? But I really just have to, like you said, like detach myself from that portion of things, because I'm like, people are going to be mad about what they're going to be mad about. And that has nothing to do with me. I'm just here to do my part of what I'm passionate about. And if you fuck with it, you fuck with it.
Yeah.
And if not, it's okay.
But also like just having the open conversation, open dialogue about stuff is so important, because then you just be sitting over there thinking that this one way of thinking is all there is to it. And especially as like Tongans and Pacificas, like sometimes we don't talk about stuff. We just throw shit. We just brush it up under the rug.
Yeah. We're just like, nobody find this.
Yeah.
Nobody talk about this.
So outside of just being Tongan, like just being human, I want to be like as authentic as I can be. And if you're telling me there's something that's like I can't do, obviously I'm going to want to like...
You're like, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy is like, I'm very fortunate that I am in a relationship. I have a partner that teaches me that.
Shout out to Swizz. He's in the room with us.
Shout out to Big Swizz. Whereas like a lot of the times I have to challenge even my own like belief systems and what I thought like what was like, especially what you're saying with PDA. Like I'm not even affectionate. I wasn't, or I thought I wasn't, you know, and I feel like there was like a defense mechanism to protect myself. So I was like, don't touch me, like, you know, and like, also
don't
like,
touch my hand.
Yeah, like we don't hug each other. So it's like, I'm just not used to like being so close. Even with my friends, I didn't like us touching each other.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until I met my partner, and he's very like affectionate, very PDA, like he does like not care. And I just had to kind of like, oh, okay, like, kind of get used to it. And I feel like then I started like, damn, it was all the things that I was actually yearning for in my childhood that I didn't get. Like, and that's why now is like, I'm like fucking head over heels for this man. Like, because he kind of gives me what I didn't get as a child, and me like evolving as a woman and coming more to who I am. I really need like a strong, that foundation of like, no, do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
Like, you know, be who you want to be. No shame, no judgment, like, you know, no shade. Like, and I always felt like being around, like if I had listened to everyone, I would have been the modest girl, you know? And I still have my little moments because I still feel like there's still parts of me that sometimes I'm like, I feel like it's an obligation. I have like a bigger obligation or like something bigger than me that I need to answer to. So I still find myself in those moments, but like definitely at my core, is like, no, I need to do more of the things that I'm probably afraid to do and the things that probably like nobody else will talk about because they're probably thinking it, you know? And if we're also experiencing these things too, it's like, I don't know. I think that is also what has made my journey the most authentic is because I talk about all the shit that I'm actually going through and people look at me as this person and I've been able to attain all these things, but it's like, bro, I be going through everyday shit like y'all.
Yeah.
Like what?
So kind of just going back to like the culture and like how it's been perceived with your modeling career. I am just curious, like you said that our culture has helped you with like your work ethic, like people judge you at the beginning, like relatives and stuff like that. I'm just curious, like I need to think of how I want to word this.
Okay.
I'm like honestly curious about what you see for the future of pasifika models and what is that going to look like. And I know that we've talked about this in like personal conversations about how modeling can be a stepping stone to other careers. Like we're talking about like Cara Delevingne, like going into acting. We've talked about Ashley Graham being able to become like a TV host and like be on red carpet events. And so what do you see your modeling career being a stepping stone for? Or is it just modeling, or do you think it's going to take you somewhere else?
Totally. I think for the girls who are coming up in the game as pasifika women going into modeling, I definitely think you have to be like relentless and you're going to be challenged on your cultural principles a lot. And if you really, really want to do this, those are the things you're probably going to have to overcome and keep it pushing on. And what I find was the biggest issue with the poly girls or pasifika girls, that's usually what it is. You know, there's something like they feel like they can't do it
like
because
something
their
holding
parents,
them back,
their family, their money, their job. They still have attachments. I feel like at the time when I went into this, I didn't care. I was like, I'll leave my apartment, I'll leave my car. I don't care. I'll go and start all over. And I feel like you kind of have to have that attitude to make it in like entertainment and just the industry. You really have to like be so relentless. I think for me now, like where I'm going with my career now, I think it's just me going back to my roots and being in community advocacy. I feel like I want to segue I want to do fashion, but I feel like because fashion is also political, that I can still be in this and do other things that I feel like give more meaning to the industry.
Yeah.
Obviously, like I definitely have like goals. I want to do a lot of things like voiceovers. I would love to go into acting. Me and my partner do like improv, like, you know.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we totally do improv and like just trying to like get our skills up there. And right now, like because I'm going through like an internal transformation right now, who knows? Who knows what will come of this? I just know that in all of my work and what people have been able to see on the surface as like the campaigns, the accomplishments and all those stuff, it's all came from me doing a lot of inner work. And because I'm in that season of my life right now, who knows what you'll see me see me
You're
doing.
Like the door's open because you kicked it down.
Yeah, like I've been working on my podcast, he knows, called Big Sexy in the City. We filmed an entire season already, and then 2 of our girls went back home. So right now we're like in
because there's 4 of you. Tell us a little bit more about it, because when you drop it, I want everybody to freaking tune in, because I'm so excited.
So that was like a pivot for me as well. Big Sexy in the City is a podcast with 4 co-hosts, including myself, is Jasmine Carthon, Rachel Thabier, and Mahalia from Australia. And it's just about big plus size models living in the city and what our dating experiences are like, what our career journey is like, and like us trying to figure it out. Sex in the City, black and brown girl version, basically.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like I wanted to use this as a way to bring my audience and my supporters into a different part of my world. Like, whereas like I am the fashion girly, but I'm also like, I love all of these things, and I love to have like impactful conversations and talk about things that I feel like people don't talk about, same way that why you want to do your podcast. And I feel like because I was in a different part of my life too, where it's like, no, I really want to use my voice. Like, I think that the pictures do one thing, but I feel like the conversations,
like the context of
photos. Yes, of the photos, it means so much more. And yeah, so that was like a part of my life that I want to share now and get into. And yeah, like I really can't say, just know, and y'all know that everything I say I'm gonna do, I do. So just wait. Just wait on it.
Wait for the voiceovers, wait for the acting gigs, wait for
like I'm open to it all. I want to write a book. I want to go back to Tongan and do some advocacy work there. Like,
okay, fine, I'll come with you. Stop asking.
Yes, come with me. But yeah, that's basically what it is. I can't really say, because I feel like every opportunity that I get now is so like God ordained that I'm just like, I'm kind of like, just let me know how you want to use me. Like, let me be a vessel of influence. I won't ask no questions.
No, I love that. Something else I want to kind of get into is like, what do you feel helps keep you grounded during this process of modeling? Like, are there, I don't know, like belief systems or manifestations that you do on a daily to kind of help you stay grounded, or when you're going through like a rough spot? What do you do?
Definitely all of those things. Affirmations, meditation, like trying to find like time to just process my emotions. I think right now for me, it's been, I've been confronting a lot of my fears, a lot of emotional work that I've been doing. And I think it had to do a lot with like grieving. I was grieving a lot of people in my life, and that kind of forced me to just want to show up in a different way. So, and a part of that showing up is like not running away from my feelings and like things that I'm kind of like experiencing. So on a hard day, a hug really helps me.
Thanks, Swizz.
Like, I'm not even gonna front. A big part of like my emotional regulation has been from my man. But also in like the best way, because it's helping me realize like where my true strength is. And I think that most people would think that you're not strong in your probably like weakest moments of your life. But if you're able to sit in those moments and like let it pass through you and not try to distract yourself.
And not live in it.
Yeah, like let it pass through you. Like get all of the tears out. Get like all of your fears, like your doubts, all of it. Get it all out of you so that you can have more clarity, like on, okay, where do I go from this? It's been a thing for me to not be like fake positive when I'm not feeling that, know, obviously it's,
when people are like, fake it till you make it. I'm like, I can't fake shit right now. I need to.
I believe that
to an extent.
I believe that to a degree, because it's like, if you're faking it, like let's say the fake it is like you never crying and you just like, oh, I'm gonna take it on my chest. Ugh.
Yeah. Like just brush it off.
Yeah. It's like, dude, eventually like you're going to explode. Like, yeah, you're gonna crack. And I find that there's a lot more there's a lot more challenges when you like run away from that versus like doing stuff. I feel like right now when people go through a lot of hard stuff, they have vices. I smoke a lot of weed. I'll smoke a blunt, like for real. Like I'm like up and down, happy, sad, joy, all of that. Like I'll definitely take a spliff. So, but some people just don't deal with it at all. Like some people just don't do that. Yeah. And that's what I find. Like the affirmations, the meditate, all that shit for real. But if you're mad and you're experiencing this emotion, you need to find an outlet to let it out for sure. In however way that is healthy for you and the people around you. And that is still something that I'm learning how to do. I feel like at 35, I'm learning so much about myself that I would have never knew at 25. And like, if I hadn't gone through all of these things, like I wouldn't be able to process it like in a healthy way. So I feel like a lot of young people can just kind of like sit in that peace with themselves, that you going through this shit now is going to save you so much more work later on and down the line. Like for real, you don't want to be miserable in your 40s, 50s trying to still figure your shit out. Like figure that shit out now. Like, as hard as it is, like check that shit now for sure.
No, I love that. And I'm just so thankful that we got to bring you on here to talk your shit a little bit. It's just been so cool seeing your come up and seeing everything that you do aside from modeling. Again, so many people in our community have always looked up to you, and they will always look up to you physically and mentally and spiritually. But I just think that everything that you've done has really opened so many doors for even people like me, like somebody who's just a stylist. I remember being so intimidated reaching out to you the first time because I was like, oh my gosh, this bitch is not going to give me the time of day. She does not want to meet me. And I remember like being so excited because that's just who you are. You are somebody who builds community wherever you are. And I feel like even when I go to New York, like you're always introducing us to new people, other pasifika creatives out there. And that is something that is so special whenever I go out to New York Fashion Week, is that you bring people together and you help us connect and you help us meet and do new things. And it's just really cool. Like I just think about this past trip when I went out to New York. I think we were out there during like the Super Bowl, right? We were watching the Super Bowl and you were like, come over.
And we went to Wisdom's Fashion Week party. We
went to Wisdom Cave. And I remember like I followed Wisdom for a while and you like invited me to this after party and I was like, whose party is this? And you sent it over to me and I was like, oh, hell yeah. I fucking love this dude. And then you got me there. But even at that Super Bowl party, you had like all these pasifika people there. And I was like, this is so dope. Like I would not think that we would be able to gather this many people within our community in one apartment, semi watching the Super Bowl and sneaking to the bathroom to go listen to Beyonce's new
album. Her album dropped on the day of the Super Bowl.
She dropped like 2 singles and half of us were like, we're gonna go to the bathroom and go listen to this really cool.
Yeah. No, I love that. I feel like that's part of what I want to do, is like just create space, continue to create space, especially for pasifika people, but it's like also to bring them into like a whole nother world that we're not exposed to. Yeah. And like find new ways to elevate the culture, like to grow the culture, and then bring it back to wherever you guys are and like help it grow there. I feel like the scene here in Utah is also growing, and I'm really proud to like be a part of that.
I mean, it's just cool to see, again, like all the creatives kind of coming out within our community. For a long time, like I said, it just wasn't something that was celebrated. But I think we see more and more people kind of stepping into that creativity and really saying, like, we could make careers out of this. We can do something with this. And I know like a lot of our parents like immigrated to the US and they wanted us to be doctors and lawyers
all
and
these prestigious careers.
And I was like, are you a doctor? I'm just
Can you build a house?
But like, I think that they had all these expectations for us, and I feel that. But at the same time, it's like we're opening their minds up to the idea that there's more than one route to success. And I think you doing that as a model has kind of helped a lot of people like myself in creative spaces to be like, this is something that we can do. Like if I want to move to New York, I can do it. If I want to be a model, I can do it. I mean, maybe not me, but other people who want to model. But I'm just so thankful for the example that you've set, for the groundwork that you've done. I just feel like there's no better way to end this first season of this podcast than with you. And I'm just grateful to have you as a friend, as somebody that I can look up to, somebody I can talk to. And I know that we are going to see so many more big things from you. And I can't wait for people to see that.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate you giving me the platform to share mine. And since you're the one who's always asking the questions, I want to ask you a question.
Ask away. I'm an open book.
So what do you want people to take away from your life's work?
From my life's work, I just want people to see that I went against the grain and I didn't fit the mold of what Pacific Islanders were. Like, I feel like there's so many things about me that are very nuanced and people try to put me in this box, but I'm like, I don't abide by those rules. And I want people to see that. I want that to reflect in my work, that I can be multi-passionate, I can be feminine and still all these things, you know, because those are all things that, I don't know, that people would downplay for me. They were like, you have to pick one thing, or like you're too feminine, or like you're this or this or this. But all those things, like you said earlier, are things that make me who I am, and it helps me stand out.
Your parts of you.
Yeah, I just want people to see through my work, at least, even with this podcast, or whether it be with like styling projects or whatever, that you can do whatever the hell you want. And I don't have to abide by the rules that you've set for me, because I make the rules. But yeah, that is just something that I think about every now and then. It's just breaking those rules and doing what I got to do.
I love that. Okay. What is something that you have overcame recently?
Overcame, I think something that's been kind of like hard is juggling like a work-life balance, because aside from launching this podcast, I work full-time in tech.
Right.
I freelance as a stylist. I feel like my life is like, my scheduling is crazy.
Yeah.
And for a long time, like, this podcast has always been in the back of my mind, but I think even just getting it off the ground was something that I overcame, because for a long time I kept saying, I don't have the time to do that. I don't have the budget to do that. I don't have this or this or this to do that. And so, I don't know, I just woke up one day and I was just like, I think today's the day. And I like told my wife about this idea, and we literally started recording within like the next few weeks. But I think I was just limiting myself as to what I could accomplish. And even though it's hard working a full-time job and having all these side gigs or whatever, there are things I'm passionate about. So I find the time to make it happen.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. How would you define your masculinity?
Ooh, I think this one is kind of tricky to answer, because I feel like I don't fit the bill for what people would consider masculine, which is fine. I feel like people downplay my masculinity a lot. Like, people are always shocked that I'm married to a woman, that I have kids. They like crack jokes that my wife doesn't know that I'm gay, or like different things like that. Like, that's all I hear on social media.
Wow.
And that's like within our community, with that like outside of our community. And so when I build spaces like this, I get nervous, because when I put it online, I know that's the first thing people are going to try to clock me for, is like, oh, he's too feminine, or he acts too much like this or whatever. But for me, I think the most masculine thing about me is how I love on my wife and my kids. Like, you will never not see me supporting them. You will never not see me helping them do more with their lives. And if my wife wants to do X, Y, and Z, I'm going to damn sure find a way for her to do X, Y, and Z. And for me, that's how I define my masculinity, is how I serve my wife and my kids, and how I can live in a way that they'll be proud of me for.
I love that. I love that. And I think that is beautiful that you can show a different way to honor that.
Yeah, I think like for me, like I've always been like pretty feminine. Like people like always questioned that when I was younger. And so it made me kind of like think like, am I gay? Am I this? Am I this? But I was like, again, I think people were trying to put me in this box of like, because you act like this,
you have to be this. Yes.
But for me, I think that's why my creative passions have been such a big part of how I express myself, because I'm like, is it weird that I'm into fashion? I don't think it's weird. Is it gay that I'm into fashion? I don't think it's gay. But that's like how people made me feel. And so I think like coming into my adulthood is understanding that, yeah, maybe I don't fit the bill for everybody, but that's fine. That's none of my business.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And I commend you for everything that you stand for. I feel like, especially just how pasifika men are viewed in that standpoint.
Yeah.
Like, I love that you show that you can be both and still fucking do it well.
Well, hopefully people resonate with that a little bit.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter because you're still holding space. Like, you're still holding space for these conversations to take place. And that's the most important thing. I feel like when someone feels so misunderstood in like who they are, when you do this stuff, you just like reaffirm.
I just feel like when you're doing the damn thing, like nothing else really matters.
Yeah.
And so here we are.
Yeah.
Recording this damn podcast.
Here we are on the last episode of Xtra Sznd Podcast. Getting ready for Creative Pacific Fashion Week. Like, we're totally going to kill it, and definitely be on the lookout for everything that comes after this.
Yep. Stay tuned, guys.
Yeah.